Hey everybody, it's Lo and welcome back to my channel, Lo Without Limits. In this video, I'm going to share about eco-friendly packaging and plastic alternatives. So if you want to see that, then just keep watching. This video is both for businesses selling packaged products as well as consumers who are buying physical packaged products as well, or people like myself who are both. And I started doing research for this video and wanting to look more into this after receiving a package from Public Goods a few months ago, so I'll have that video linked down below, where some of the items looked like they were in plastic wrapping, but it was actually a sugarcane plastic material. So it's completely plant-based, biodegradable, and free of nasty toxic plastics. And I thought it was a super interesting choice and something that I've never really seen before. And I thought, if this really is a truly sustainable alternative, why aren't we using it more to replace virgin plastic and all this toxic stuff that isn't getting recycled and will only break down into microplastics. After getting that package, I decided to look more into sugarcane packaging, which also just introduced me to other types of bioplastics that I figured I would share the pros, the cons, how they're produced, and why they're not as widely used as they should be. First of all, stepping away from plastics and plastic alternative, there are so many other alternatives that things can be shipped in. Personally, for my small business Rain, I use everything with recycled paper packaging. So I get the boxes, the paper tape, which is water activated, stickers, shipping label, and the packing paper, as well as the printer paper. All of that is recycled paper. So the printer paper I do just pick up from the store, but everything else, and especially the stickers, are all from eco-enclosed, so everything is post-consumer waste and everything can be fully recycled, even the labels and stickers, which a lot of things that have stickers on it, so if you get a box in the mail but it has a sticker label on it, it might not be able to be recycled because then you have to separate that plastic, which can't be recycled since it's a sticky part, from the paper, and it just makes this whole mess. So these, whatever the adhesive is on it, can be fully recycled, so you can throw everything into your recycling bin without worrying about taking the stickers off. Paper is the easiest because it can be recycled and it's super easy and inexpensive to recycle, but the downside with paper products is that it can only be recycled about 5 times before the fibers become too short and it becomes too weak and won't make a strong box like the cardboard boxes. So after about 5 times of being recycled, it does just go into the trash. But again, it's a paper product, it's a natural product, and it will fully decompose over time. And certain composting places also do accept paper to be composted. Not from eco-enclosed, but the packaging itself for my products is also fully recycled paper, and it just has a little gloss over it, but it can also be fully recycled. So it doesn't look like it because sometimes when you buy things from a sustainable place and they have a recycled packaging on it, it kind of looks a bit more like this, but I wanted to make it look really nice but still be an eco-friendly packaging option. And while paper can only be recycled 5 times, that is more than 0. And again, if it's not being recycled and it is just tossed away over time, it will fully decompose, unlike plastics, which will just become microplastics. The only materials that can be recycled endless amounts of time without losing strength or quality are metals and glass. So glass can be recycled infinite amount of times, as well as metals, as long as they're not being mixed in with too much other stuff. So metal and glass are the most sustainable and fully reusable items, and then paper is a close second. Now plastic, on the other hand, is the biggest issue and does need to be addressed. It will never fully break down. Like I said, it will turn into microplastics, which are even worse for the environment and get into our bodies and have been shown to be in babies because of the bioaccumulation of microplastics in our bodies. So they're super toxic, super harmful for the environment, and it's also a non-renewable resource. It's all petroleum based, which is just horrible because then it's requiring a lot more, it's producing a lot more carbon dioxide in the process of extracting the oil and turning it into plastic. So plastic just has a bunch of downsides, and yes, people do put it into the recycling bin, but most of what gets put into the recycling bin does not get recycled. And this is for a bunch of different reasons. Some of it is because of wish cycling. So by throwing in something that can't be recycled, like a thin, clear plastic wrap, putting that in there could ruin the rest of your recycling. If you are throwing all of your recycling into a dark trash bag, putting it in there because people don't want to open it up at the recycling facilities and not know what might be inside, so they just toss it to the side. By doing recycling poorly, which is a big issue, that ruins what can get recycled. And then the recycling itself, what does get processed to be recycled, again, is such a small amount, and it's actually more expensive than just producing new virgin plastic. So a lot of our recycling was actually getting sold to China, and they were producing new plastic from our recycled materials, but it's become so much easier and cheaper to make plastic from virgin materials that people are just doing that, and recycling plants literally have to pay people to take their plastic waste. And even China's like, well, we have too much, it's too expensive to do anything with, and it just gets tossed into the landfill, into the oceans, and it's becoming a big issue. That way we don't have to worry about recycling and all of this just ending up in the landfill and never actually getting recycled. There are some different alternatives, again, like sugarcane packaging and other bioplastics that I learned about. So bioplastics is a broad term meaning plastic that's made from a natural resource, and the technical name for it is PLA, or polylactic acid. So they're all relatively carbon neutral because, again, they're using natural grown products which absorb carbon as they're grown from all these plants. So then in the process of turning that into plastic, the carbon that the plant is producing versus being created to make the bioplastic makes it a relatively carbon neutral process. And of course, as we change more into sustainable energy and things like that, it can actually even be carbon negative. Because bioplastics come from a natural material as well, they are fully biodegradable, which means that they won't turn into microplastics, they will fully break down, and they are non-toxic because they don't have things like BPA in them, which are super carcinogenic. So bioplastics consist of a ton of different materials that are in development and that scientists are looking into, including straw, sawdust, wood chips, shrimp waste, a bunch of different stuff, but the ones that I'm going to be focusing on are the ones that are shown to be the most effective and have a lot more research going into them, although they still are expensive. So these are sugarcane, cassava, and corn. Starting off with sugarcane, since it's the reason why I started doing research for this video. So sugarcane is made of the non-edible fibrous part of the sugarcane plant, also called bagasse. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. That is left over after all of the sweet stuff is extracted. So it's all this fibrous stuff that was just going to be tossed aside anyway. It's simple, straightforward, is non-toxic, BPA free, but the reason why it's not as commonly used as just regular old plastic is because of the costs associated with it. Because it's dependent on a natural resource, it also is dependent on a good sugarcane crop yield and having to pay the farmers. Crops are a bit less stable because of climate change, and even though our plastic use is making climate change worse, which just makes this horrible cycle of more plastic means a worse crop yield, so we can't use bioplastics, so we use more regular plastic. But because of that and because of paying the farmers, it does cost more to produce instead of just putting a drill in the ground and having some oil to make some more plastic. Another downside to transitioning to something like all sugarcane plastic packaging would be that some people would see that as a cash grab moment and would start monocropping and subsidizing sugarcane so that we could produce more of the sugarcane packaging, so it would be under the guise of a sustainable solution, but it would actually be more detrimental for the climate, for our soil, for our waistlines, and for so many other things. So enforcing sugarcane packaging and putting a bunch of big money into it would actually be a little less beneficial in other ways. Moving on to something else that is already subsidized monocrop that is hurting our soil, corn. So corn is becoming another bioplastic option by using the corn kernels plus the other linoleic acid to create a bioplastic. However, even with the upside of being a potential great bioplastic option, corn is hurting our environment in other ways by depleting our soil of essential nutrients and being super reliant on modified corn kernels and GMOs, which also hurt the environment and put more toxins into the environment, as well as being super reliant on pesticides and herbicides due to monocropping. In a perfect world with regenerative agriculture where corn wasn't monocropped and everything was grown right, corn as well as these other solutions would be a fantastic alternative to regular plastic packaging. To transform corn into a bioplastic, corn kernels are immersed in sulfur dioxide and water, where its components break down into starch, protein, and fiber, and the starchy part is mixed with a form of citric acid to create the plastic alternative. So all of these are often mixed with a type of acid, which gives it that PLA classification, since that is how the bonds and the forms are created. And lastly, cassava starch is the fibrous part of the root vegetable, and when that is mixed with a few acids as well as ozone gas, it changes the molecular structure of the starch to make another bioplastic. Scientists believe that cassava bioplastic could actually be a fantastic alternative because it's one of the strongest ones that they found, and since they're using ozone gas, it's allowed them to make a super transparent plastic, which would be great for replacing things like cling wrap and other transparent packages that often come on food. However, like the other two, because it's only being produced on a smaller scale right now, the cost is a lot more expensive, so a lot of people aren't transitioning over to cassava starch bioplastics or the other ones, because when you're producing it on a smaller scale versus a larger scale that's adopted by more people, the cost of producing it is a lot more expensive. So if everybody could switch over to bioplastics, it would bring the cost down more, but it would take a lot and a big change in order to do that. Now, if you do find yourself using a plastic that is made of corn, cassava, or sugarcane, there is one thing to keep in mind, and that is to not recycle it. Yes, do not throw your bioplastics into the recycling bin. That's because since they are made of a organic matter, they won't mix with the other plastics that are in there. So all the numbers that are on the bottom of plastics help them sort out the plastics when they do get recycled, which makes all the little bits mix in well together, so you can't mix a plastic number 1 with number 7, which number 7 is like the unknown plastic, like styrofoam, which is the absolute worst plastic out there. And great styrofoam alternative, I forgot what it's made of, but Seed, when you get your daily symbiotic refills every month, has a styrofoam alternative that seems just like styrofoam, protects just like styrofoam, but can dissolve in water and is fully natural. All these other actual plastics though can't mix together, and if you throw in a bioplastic, those will break down completely in heat, since again they're a natural material and they won't mix with the other plastics in the recycling machine. So what you need to do with bioplastics is actually put them in the compost bin. Again, they will fully decompose, so if a compost place is taking in bioplastics, it will completely decompose in the compost bin. And if you're not composting or collecting your compost, then you can just put it in the regular trash. Again, it will take longer to break it down, but over time it will fully break down instead of creating microplastics. So you can either compost if it is accepted in your local area, or you can just throw it in the trash, but do not recycle your bioplastics. Well, I hope you learned something new about sustainable packaging and plastic alternatives, which you can hopefully use in the future as either a business selling packaged products or as a consumer. So if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, comment down below what your favorite sustainable swaps are, as well as what else you want to see here on my channel. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe. I upload a new video every Wednesday. So until the next one, thanks for watching.